All right, everybody, what is going on? We're gonna be doing a little bit of a video here. I've done one of these before, and I figured I was gonna do it again. We're gonna do it in a different format. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna title this yet, but I've been running through a couple funny ideas in my head that are definitely clickbait. You got me. But we're going to be reviewing Truth's top 10 LRs tier list as of June 2024. This is as of the Cell Max LR release. You can see them right there down there at the bottom of the tier list. Now, of course, I have used a good chunk of the LRs on this list. The only ones I really haven't used are Ginyu, who comes out tonight on Global, and Cell Max, of course. But everyone else I have used. I have Beast Gohan Rainbowed on my JP account. I have played the 9th anniversary content. I have Broly at 55%, Gamma's at 55%, Gogeta at 55%. Like, I have used all of these characters, and I've played the 9th anniversary content, so I do have a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. Now, I will say, before we even get into this and before we start watching this, is that Cell Max has absolutely, like, shattered my expectations for him. So I just want to get this out of the way, that whenever I'm evaluating characters, my biggest flaw for me is that I don't really take into account offense at all. You know, a lot of people, as soon as they see the big numbers on like the Dokkan world, like thumbnail, they just go, all right, that's a good unit or that's a bad unit. That's kind of all they do. For me, I'm a very like gut reaction type of guy. Until I actually like use these units and I get a feeling for how they feel in my hands, I can't really get a read on them. I'll be completely honest. Everything that I do in terms of how I would rank units is based entirely on how safe I feel using them and just how comfortable I feel bringing them onto teams in the current content. I also probably put a little bit too much weight on leader skill. That's probably, you know, something else nobody else does. I value leader skills tremendously. It's one of the reasons why I like God Goku so much. So just getting some of my like flaws as a reviewer out there. So, you know, whenever I was looking at Cell Max on like his initial release morning, I guess, you know, I was doing calculations for him and I was like, you know, like a million defense, 30% damage reduction, not that crazy. What I didn't really take into account is how fast the Super Boss's team moves. You know, I was thinking about like, okay, if this fight is going to like turn 9 or turn 10, like Cell Max is probably going to have several turns where he's going to be exposed, right? What I didn't take into account is that, you know, Cell Max is basically invincible for the first 2 turns. And then on his third appearance, which would be like turn 5, at the earliest, Cell Max's third appearance would be turn 5. And that's where he would, you know, no longer have his intro buff up. But on that turn, he can use his active skill. So really, he's not going to be weak until turn 7. And the thing about Cell Max is you're probably not going to make it to turn 7 because the Super Boss's team and he himself does so much damage that it's just like any defensive flaw that he might have, you're just never going to run into in the current content because you're going to be going so fast through it. I mean, if you're running double Broly does a ton of damage. Cell Max does a ton of damage. Rose does a ton of damage. It's like everybody on Super Bosses is contributing to this damage, and then you have like support units and everything like that that just, you know, make things go a lot faster. So, I definitely underrated this guy on release, and it was just because I was looking at his defense going a million, That's why I was making, like, the 23rd World Tournament Goku comparisons. I was making, like, you know, Orange Piccolo comparisons. I was like, yeah, like he should operate similarly to them. But it's like, I didn't realize old boy was going to be shooting out, like, 30, 40 million attack stats 4 times on a turn, right? Like, that's just not something I ever consider initially. So it's until I see them doing it in game and I get a feel for how their team is going to run, because I do value that a lot as well. I'll take off a lot of points on a unit if like their team just isn't running very well. You know, it's like, yeah, they're great, but I have to run them on this terrible team. That's kind of like Frieza. Like, Frieza actually feels really good to me, but Terrifying Conquerors is desolate, so Frieza is bad. Like, I don't know that I'd even put Frieza in a top 10, because he's pretty much unrunnable. Like, he feels awesome. Like if, you know, Terrifying Conquerors got the Super Bosses treatment, you could make Frieza insane in like a single celebration. But until that happens, it's just like, I probably wouldn't even put Frieza in a top 10 Dokkan Fest TURs because he's actually unrunnable. And maybe that's just me, but like even his leader skill isn't that great. So anyway, to get that out of the way, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be going over Truth's top 10 tier list right here. I'm going to be kind of giving my thoughts on his thoughts, and that's what we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to make sure that the audio is working real quick, and then we're going to hop into this. All right, audio seems to be working just fine. Hopefully it works for you guys as well. But as far as I can tell, it's coming through OBS, it's coming through my headphones, so we should be good. Now, the last time I did this, I just kind of ranked the raw tier list itself, and I didn't really, like, watch the video very much, and people were like, oh, I really thought that this was going to be you more going through, like, his video and his comments and everything. So that's what we're going to do here. The video is 30 minutes, so I don't know if we'll play all of it. If it feels like he's just kind of, like, rambling and repeating himself, we might just do the little arrow key skip a little bit, but you know, hopefully everything is just fine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pull it up. And then, oh, I guess I'll go ahead and pull it up on Twitter as well. Yeah, so there we go. I actually did have it up already on Twitter. So you can see the completed list right here. I mean, I'm assuming that if you're watching my video, you've already seen the top 10. I guess I'll give my just brief thoughts before we go into his. I mean, you know, after watching like the 2-hour video he put out today on Cell Max, I can definitely see where you'd want to rank him as number 2. He's just so powerful. Even like, you know, bringing 2 of him and like having a 150% leader on your team, it did not seem to slow that team down at all. So that also speaks to how powerful Cell Max is, that you'd be willing to run a second one of him on your team because he's so strong defensively and he's still really powerful offensively. And the 150% leader skill doesn't slow down your team. Like in a meta balanced around 200% leader skills, that does have value. So I think I could see this, you know, you know, if you look at like the value that Beast Gohan is bringing the super class teams, I'd say that Cell Max is bringing that to extreme class teams, albeit it is a very limited amount of extreme class teams. But artificial life forms and super bosses are both really good right now. So, you know, it's like the only two extreme class teams we have are made better by him. So I think that that's really good. Evolution Blue Vegeta, I would definitely put it 3. I would keep this exact same order. You could talk me into putting Bootanks above Gogeta, but Gogeta's Rainbow Orb changing is awesome. Gogeta has the target mechanic, and Gogeta's just, like, feels good to use. There's not really a situation where I'm like, oh, man, like, I wish I had somebody over Gogeta on a team, right? Like, Gogeta just feels awesome, so I think it'd really just be the Rainbow Orb changing and the target mechanic. That's what would put him over Bootanks for me. Bootanks, I do think, is the second best villain in the game, so I think this makes sense. Broly is really good, but I don't think he's as good defensively as people think he is, which that's where Cell Max really comes in and helps him, is Cell Max can like take that pressure off of Broly needing to do everything. It just kind of lets Broly come into a role of his own of just being like this nice slot 2 damage dealer. So that's definitely really good. Another thing on Cell Max, just real quick, I won't dwell on this long, but I really wish that he was the Part 2 Anniversary LR, just so that he could be a Carnival unit and have a 200% leader skill. There is no need for the Gammas to be a 200% leader. There is almost no situation where you would ever run the Gammas as a leader unit, whereas Cell Max, you would absolutely run him as a leader, and we do it now even under a 150. So, you know, people talk about like, oh, the hype, oh, it makes sense in the celebration, yada, yada, whatever. It would have made much more sense for Cell Max to be a Part 2 LR, solely for him to be a Carnival and get the 200% leader. If this guy was a 200% Super Bosses leader, you might be able to talk me into him over Beast Gohan. Like, honestly, that you could probably do it. I would be like, well, but Beast does have like a million categories. Like Beast is like Cell Max is good on like 2 teams. Beast is good on every single team he can be run on. So that is, you know, that is valuable. But Cell Max with the 200% leader would definitely be like, it would be indescribable. You know, normally you look at something like the Gammas, and it's like, if they're a 200% leader, it doesn't matter. You know, if Ginyu is a 200% leader, it doesn't really matter. Like the LR Ginyu Force, I mean, right? But this guy, this guy being a 200% leader, that would have mattered. That would have mattered a ton. So I really wish that they had done that. But back down to the list here. You could convince me and talk me into like putting Orange Piccolo as high as 5. I'm being dead serious. You could do it. Just because like the superhero team is so good, and on the superhero team you get access to this guy's active skill on turn 3, and from there you can just like, okay, you get this guy on turn 3, you get this guy on turn 4, whatever, you get, you know, this guy on turn 5, you can just chain these active skills and everything like to just win the fight. And Piccolo's is the only one still that cancels everything. It cancels the super attacks, it cancels the AoEs, it cancels the stun, the seal, whatever, the lock. Piccolo's is the only one that gets around that, and he is still good enough defensively to be run in this 9th anniversary content. So you really could talk me into having him as high as like 5 and shift everyone else down. I like the Gammas, but I would say Broly is better. And then these guys, I think these guys are kind of underrated. Their orb changing is so valuable, and they just fit well on their teams, and they're really good for this meta. Even in a meta right now where a lot of the bosses are STR, these guys work really well. I like this unit a lot. So them being 10, I am perfectly okay with. Just looking back at this, is there anybody else I would rather have at 10 over them? Like, no. These are all just bait units. Like these first like couple up here, this is all bait. I'm trying to see anybody that I would rather have at 10. No, not Fusion Zamasu. They're better than Fusion Zamasu. No, none of these guys. If GT bosses was as good as super bosses, you could talk me into Omega being at 10. Omega is really good. He's just locked to the worst category in the world. Not these guys. Yeah, I'm looking at this. No, Bulma. It'd be between like them and Bulma, and I would definitely put them above Bulma. So, yeah, maybe you could talk Broly, Chi Lion, Limo into 10. But anyway, yeah. So I would say overall, I am pretty much in agreement with this list. As far as this being the top 10, yes, I think these are the 10 best LRs in the game. Maybe I would shift the order around. Like I said, I could see Orange Piccolo as high as like 5. You know, I could put, maybe I could put Bootanks over Gogeta, but probably not. That's really the only thing. Is like maybe you could convince me to put this guy here and shift everyone else down. I think Orange Piccolo or Power Awakening Piccolo, whatever you want to call him, is just supremely underrated. But that's my thoughts. If anybody actually cared about those, let's go into Truths and see what he has to say here.
All right, guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. Second. We've had very few LR.
All right, one thing real quick. I don't, you know, listen, we kind of skipped through the first like 40 seconds here. One thing, I guess this was in March, so this would have been after we had like the EX part and everything. Like, yeah, because Bootanks and Vegito and everybody was out at that point. One thing that I've kind of given Truth for like a hard time on in the past, like around Worldwide and stuff like that. He doesn't ever respond to me, but you know, I always go throw my thoughts out on his tweets. People call me a Twitter reply merchant. Like all I do is reply to Truth and Goresh. That's like all I do. I get on Twitter and I just like, oh, Truth tweet, reply. You know, Goresh tweet, reply. That's all I do. I understand if nobody wants to follow my Twitter. It's not very good. I'm just there to like throw my thoughts into the void, and if people listen to them, that's cool. If they don't, whatever. One thing I have is just like, I feel like a lot of the times, especially during big celebrations, he does tier list too quickly. It's like the unit will drop, he'll take him into whatever fights are coming or are out at that moment, and then he'll put his tier list up like that day. You know, like Fusion Zamasu, you know, he released that Fusion Zamasu or like that part 2 LR tier list or whatever it was, and it was like, buddy, we still have the EX part coming. Like, I don't think the Fusion Zamasu, like whenever he did his Worldwide Celebration LR tier list, I don't even think the Fusion Zamasu fight was out yet, and he had already put it out, and I was like, like, I don't know about that one, Chief. So March, this probably would have been a decent amount of time to like get an idea on these units, and yeah, he actually had Piccolo above Broly back then. I mean, again, I could see it. You could convince me this guy, who did he have above him? Did he, hang on, let me mute it real quick just so that I can talk over him. Does he have, okay, yeah, so we can see the full list right here. Yeah, like you could very easily, like, convince me to put Piccolo, like, at 5, like right here, which, now would be, oh, that's the wrong thing. Let me just, close that. Yeah, you could convince me to put, Orange Piccolo at, like, 5 or 6, like, still. Like you could convince me to put him up here. It'd be kind of tough between him and Gogeta, but I mean, Orange Piccolo's stronger at the beginning of the fight, and then later in the fight you have access to his active skills. So, but again, he does have the Rainbow Orb changing. Don't let anybody underrate Rainbow Orb changing for you. That is very very important. So, yeah, that's again. I'm probably maybe way too high on Orange Piccolo, but he's still really 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 good. So. Yeah, so like back then you could have gotten me as high as 4 on Orange Piccolo. Now it'd be 5 because I do think Cell Max is better than him. But yeah, that's as high as you could have gotten him from me. Oh, let me unmute.
LR Buuhan got their easy A's. A lot has happened. I've got more experience with a lot of these characters. I understand.
That is the most important thing, by the way. Having experience with the characters, that is absolutely the most important thing whenever it comes to making a tier list on these units. If you haven't had extensive use, like using these units, if you're just basing it off of like, oh, like I looked at the calcs and this is how they do. No. Until you have that gut feeling of like, I don't want to put this blue Goku and Vegeta unit on my team. Until you have that, don't rank them. Because if you're just going, oh, like according to the calcs, they should be fine most of the time. It's like, well, according to the pit in my stomach, whenever I select this unit, they suck ass. So, take your calcs and do something with them. Calcs are nice because they give you an idea, especially for defense, of just like, it kind of gives you like a relative idea of comparison. But again, until they're in game and you actually see them performing and you realize like, okay, this is how we go through events on their teams. This is how they feel cohesively. Do they have key issues? Do they have dodging issues? Is it just an RNG thing for me? Until you get all those feelings associated with a unit, you can't really rank them well. So that is like the most important thing whenever it comes to a tier list is, how do you feel using these units? Do you feel safe using these units? So, anyway, let's keep going. We're never gonna get through. If I pause every 20 seconds like this, we're never gonna get through this. So, let's keep going.
And the difficult fights better. I understand kind of like the meta better and stuff like that. I feel like I have a good grasp of what's going on. I think once we get to the top 5, there won't be too much discussion. But I do think that everyone is going to probably have a different 6 through 10 is my guess. And I do think people are going to be...
All right, I'm pausing again. But I do think that is fair. Generally, my thoughts on tier list is that if we can agree on the top 10, or even like the top 15, if we can get close on like the top 15 and you want to like shift them around a bunch of places... I'm pretty, like, you're not going to get much of an argument out of me. Now, if someone came up to me and said, I think Super Saiyan Blue, Goku, and Vegeta should be number 4, I'd be like, you are wrong. You haven't played the game. Like that's what I'd say. But overall, like if someone said like, oh, I think, the Gammas are like 5, and I think Bootanks is... Well, I don't know if I'd put him at 3, but, like, if as long as this is what your top 10 is looking like, you're not going to get much of an argument out of me. So I do think there are clear tiers, which is why I think like this type of tier list is important. And this is why I usually do my tier list kind of like this, where I don't even think like a direct 1 through 10 is that important. It's more important to see who do you think is in each tier. That way it's like, okay, like I was just saying earlier, like I think I could get Orange Piccolo up to 5, and now I'm scrolling down to here to Truth's tier list, and yeah, he would probably agree. Like if I put Orange Piccolo at 5, he'd be like, well, they're in the same tier, so it doesn't matter. That's kind of my thoughts, right? It's like this guy is not going up to like their tier. Like he is very clearly in this tier of like these types of units. So I think if you can place them anywhere within this tier, then that's fine. And that's generally how I view it. Like I think about Bootanks and I'm like, no, he's not as good as UI. Like I can just feel that. But if you want to say Bootanks over Gogeta, yeah, I could feel it. But if you also wanted to say these guys over Bootanks, yeah, I could feel it. So I might put these guys down 1 tier, but they are really, really, really good. So like, I don't know that I could see them above Gogeta, but maybe I could see them over Orange Piccolo, but I just said I could see Orange Piccolo over Gogeta. So, like, you kind of get where, like, this tier does make sense. So, yeah, like you know, you go to Truth and you're like, all right, I think Orange Piccolo should be 5. He's gonna be like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, I have them in the same tier. So this is where it kind of gets like murky. Is whenever these guys, this is where I guess he's talking about, you know, like 6 through 10 are all going to be pretty much the same, or like that's where there's going to be like variation. That's kind of what he's talking about. Now, I know a lot of people don't like AGL UI Goku, but this guy is a stud. I've had really, really good, you know, chances using him. I think just having the turn of guaranteed dodging on your first turn is really, really good. It just makes him feel very safe on his first turn, and then you have like the revive and everything else. So these two do feel like they're in a clear tier above these guys right here. So all that to say that if you're going to argue with me about a tier list, this is how I would structure it. And, you know, if we're arguing over placement in this S tier, I'm not really going to jump out at you much. You could even throw like Bulma into here. You could throw, who else? You could throw like Bulma into there. You could probably even throw Ginyu. I don't know. I might put Ginyu down like 1 tier just because he's so hyper specific. Like Cell Max is too, but he has a little bit more wiggle room. Ginyu is like, you run him on Topo's special pose team, and that is it. You know, but there's nobody else. I guess you could throw in like Broly, Chi Lion Limo, Bulma, and I think that'd be about it. Like if you wanted to throw those two, like right here, I think I could get behind that. And then that's where I'd pretty much be like, all right, that is that tier. That's the S tier. Argue with them however much you want. And then in like A tier, that's where I'd start sliding in like Ginyu. I'd start sliding in maybe like STRUI, Fusion. Did I already say Fusion Zamasu? Fusion Zamasu, I would slide into like that tier right there. So that's kind of what I would do there. But back to the video. I promise I won't pause every 10 seconds. Maybe.
Very upset with how I have the 6 through 10, but I thought about it deeply and I said, am I okay with people calling me an idiot on Twitter over this one? Yes, I am. So let's go. All right, we're going to start with number 10, Blue Kaioken Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta. This is a very good character. Very good. One of the things about them that is so impactful, it really is, you could just feel it. It's just so crazy. It's this right here. This is maybe the most important aspect of this character added with their EZA. Giving them...
I mean, yeah. I like... having access to so many rainbow orb changers, I mean, it just makes your team run better. Again, we're pausing after 10 seconds, but guys, forgive me. Rainbow orb changing, really good. That's all I'm going to say about this, is that, yeah, like this, we always said that even on release, we were like, why wasn't AGL Krillin a rainbow orb changer? Why aren't these guys a rainbow orb changers? There's no rainbow orb changers on Tournament of Power. You know, like that's all we were saying whenever these guys released. And so Amatsu went, oh, they just put it in their kit. And it really does just make all the teams that you can run them on so much smoother. Rainbow orb changers are so good. And whenever you're running like 2 of them, on the team, just kind of as like floaters or on offsetting rotations, things like that. It's like you have Gogeta on one rotation, these guys on another. You're just never going to run into key issues whenever you're running a team like this. So that is, yes, like I would agree that this is the most important thing that they have.
Rainbow orb changing has just dramatically changed how this unit feels. They're very fun. They have guaranteed crits. They potentially have a lot of damage reduction, rainbow orb changing. They also have debuffs, which are very effective in the 9th anniversary meta. This is a very good character. Now, I will say this. I've found very limited usage out of their active skill. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, their active skill is like, just because, here's the thing with their active skill, right? You guys see right here, when key meter reaches 24, a critical hit is guaranteed, and when HP is below 50% HP, damage taken is reduced by 70% once. The thing is that can activate mid-turn, and so it doesn't always line up with the active skill. And it's like kind of meant to be used together, right? Like, you know, you get the 70% damage reduction, the huge damage, all that stuff. The active skill, I don't know. Even whenever I was using them on JP, I found very rare instances where this would actually be like relevant. So it can be good potentially. I mean, like the thing is that there's just so much damage on these teams that like this doesn't really do much, right? Like Beast Gohan's already doing 1 billion damage, so then you just stack this on top of it. Like you're just never going to be in a situation where you actually feel this really come into effect. But it is what it is. I mean, the guaranteed 24 key can be nice, but anyway.
Like, it's just, you're doing so much damage, and so often these bosses really don't have the health. It's so, all the bosses pretty much are like glass cannons. Like, they hit so hard, but they go down so fast.
Yeah.
So it's, like, this is just a monstrous power up, but I feel like it's very rare. I actually am able to really truly take advantage of that.
I would like to see the next boss. You know who does linger, actually, is the Cell Max fight. He's about the only boss fight in the game that really, like, lingers on for what feels like a long time, the Cell Max Stage 2. The only thing about him is that after, like, turn 4, you can start debuffing him. So that's where he just kind of becomes, like, long and annoying versus, like, long and hard. So get that girth up.
If they have a negative, it's that this right here can trigger immediately, like when your HP falls below 50%. So you could proc this on a different turn potentially than procking this.
Yeah.
Right? This was created on the character to be used in conjunction with their active skill, because right now active skills cannot be changed with EZA, so they created this to kind of take away the, this 70% damage reduction was created to kind of get around this. But yeah, this character's right here. Okay. So now we're going to move on to number 9. This is where people get upset. But again, if you go here, I mean,
sorry, I
bro,
skipped too far.
I'm sorry, but like, so I have Orange Piccolo here. I'm also going to grab Gammas are next. Broly is next. I'm going to grab these two right here. I'm going to tell y'all right now.
I'm going to tell you guys right now. So he's going to, like, put up Broly and the Gammas right here. What I would say about this is people are going to look at this and are going to be like, oh, Broly's like an anniversary unit, and he's already the seventh best LR. And it's like, well, you have to understand that more so than ever, the competition this year is fierce. I mean, you look at the top 10 LRs that we're ranking and how good each of them is. You've got to understand that it's like, Broly isn't bad. The Gammas aren't bad. The competition this year is just more fierce than it has ever been with these rankings. I mean, like, usually by now we're, like, still ranking units from, I mean, Orange Piccolo is still on here, but usually, there's, like, a lot of random lingering LRs from, like, a year or, like, 6 months or whatever ago. Very rarely are we doing these top 10s. And is it full of competitive options from this year? I know pretty much anytime I sit down to do a tier list, especially on global, a lot of the times I'll sit down and I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are really good units. And then I'm like, all right, 5 through 10, who cares? Like that's why, if you go watch like my top TUR list from last year, I'm like, all right, God Goku, 23rd World Tournament Goku, Piccolo Jr., and that was pretty much it for the entire year. I was like, all right, those 3 are like the clear cut best. Everybody after that, I do not care. That's kind of how I felt the entire year. It was like boom, 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 1, 2, 3, and then everybody else, just who cares? Like that's how I felt the entirety of last year whenever I was doing rankings. And the LRs would usually feel the same. It's like, all right, GT Duo is probably number 1, or like Bulma's number 1, Orange Piccolo's number 1, like you got like those 3. And until like Future Gohan came out, it was like, it's just like those 3, and then just like 7 other units, right? And then even then at the end of the year, it's like, okay, who's going to be 10? It's like we were putting androids on the tier list. They were okay, like on one team sometimes whenever they dodged, but like you can just feel the power. Like the gap between these guys and the androids is like tremendous compared to like, before it used to feel like you go 1, 2, 3, fall off a cliff. Now it's like, okay, now it's like a clear step down a little bit, but they're all still like above what anything else was. So that's a long way of saying that don't look at the Gammas at 8 and think that Truth is calling them bad. Look at the Gammas at 8 and go, holy crap, they're a really good unit. There are 7 units better than them now, which is just like insane to think about because like the units above them are all like also very busted. So this isn't calling the Gammas bad. It's not like, oh, the Gammas just came out and they're already on the way out the door. It's like, no, the competition is just, it is, man, is it competitive this year. And that's awesome. I love that. I love that they're actually releasing competitive options this year. The TUR still need some help. But with like Rose actually having a real team now, I might actually be able to get behind Rose between his buff, EZA, Goku Black, Cell Max, And then once Broly and Frieza come out, you know, I've always hated Goku Black. You guys can go watch like all my physical Rose videos, and I'm just like, oh, this guy sucks. Oh, he sucks. Like, I hate him. And part of it is because his team was unrunnable. It's kind of like that Frieza principle I was talking about earlier in the video. It's that same idea of just like, I don't want to run Rose because every time it ends in sadness. But you put a real team around that guy, and he actually gets additional super attacks, and he looks really freaking awesome. Like, yeah, I'm gonna like Rose at that point, right? I don't like him now because it's just like it feels like depression running him. Like, I feel like I'm going and standing in line like at a soup kitchen waiting to get my food, and I'm just like, oh boy, my meal for today. Not to like, you know, discredit anyone that has to go through those sorts of things, but you know, it's not like I'm sitting down at like the Ritz Carlton or whatever. Isn't that the hotel? I don't know, or did I just make that up? Like, you're not sitting down at the Ritz eating like a buffet. You know, it's like, you know, it's like the difference is staggering, is what I'm getting at. So all that to say, let's continue. Sorry, guys. Listen, only 24 more minutes. We're gonna get there.
I was close to putting Orange Piccolo at 7, above Gamma's, above Broly. I'm thinking about it even right now, and it's like, it's just okay. So people are obsessed with damage in the community. It's the way people are always going to be. Like, it's foolish of me to get like upset at the way like people.
I do think Truth a little bit overrates people's obsession with damage. A little bit. But there are definitely big number. I mean, listen, you know, like you see like Dokkan assets or like Platy or whoever, you know, get on you know, Dokkan Twitter, and they post an attack stat, and it's like everyone in the comments is just having a cream fest, right? You know, it's so yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely the community likes big number go burr. That is, the community loves that. But I do think there are more and more people in the community that do recognize the value of defense. I think where Truth gets off a little bit is that people recognize the value of defense, but he recognizes the value of just like dodging and surviving. And a lot of it, I think, does come from like the perspective of recording showcases. If you guys have never sat down to record like a Dokkan showcase on like your own account, like private server doesn't count because you don't have attempt limits, but especially now with attempt limits, and recording just like showcases, right? Like, there will be days where I sit down to record a video and I'm like, all right, you know, I can knock out like 4 videos real quick in like the next hour, you know, like 15 minutes each. That shouldn't be too hard. You know, just sit down, get a couple nice runs in. And then it's like, you know, you get bad opening rotations, and so the video takes longer. You know, you get hit with an unlucky super attack and the video takes longer. You get some really bad RNG and it's like, you know, like these things stack up, and it just makes like the time you're doing something like take a lot longer, and it just feels bad, and you're like, ugh, I really wanted to be moving on by now. I want to be doing something else at this point. And so whenever you do have like a clutch dodge like that, not only is it saving you in game, but it's saving you real life time. And that is really valuable. And it's like this really relieving feeling. Like I know I was doing those legendary Frieza event runs the other day, and we got like a really unlucky super attack. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like run this event again. Like, like I could just feel my heart sinking. I was like, oh no, Frieza's supering, no. And then we got that dodge, like, oh, so like, like say I felt the release is like the biggest understatement. So like, I get it. Like, not only is it going to help you win, but it's going to save you real life time. And like, as someone who makes content, like I feel it. I don't know if that's all where it's coming from. Like, he definitely just likes winning. Like, you know, his big thing is like, oh, I want to win. But it's like, you guys have to understand that like the dopamine trigger that activates whenever you get a dodge in one of these events that you've been trying to get a win in for like you're just trying to get footage. Like, I don't even really care if I win. It's like, usually it's an off rotation, and I'm like, all right, I just need to dodge so I can get back to that rotation and get more footage to show you guys. And, you know, and if you get that dodge and you're able to, like, it's just like, it feels good. It feels really, really good. So anyway, all that to say, I keep saying that in this video, but the community definitely overrates damage, but I do think there are a lot of people now that recognize like how important defense is. It's just that, like, one, it's not as easy to see, and two, Like Truth is more like looking at the survivability of these units and like I don't know. I don't know what I'm really trying to get at there, other than defense is really important. There are more people that are recognizing it, but definitely the community is still hung up on like big number go burr. So
just like damage, right? It's just how it is. Stupid of me to get upset at that, right? But damage is super good. But damage is not rare right now. Every good character is doing waves of damage.
yeah.
So Piccolo does not do good damage at all. He's not contributing much damage almost at all. But at the start of the fight for the first 3 turns, he's pretty tanky. I mean, if you're going,
I would argue like the first 5 turns, and that's only because of the active skill. His first 2 rotations, he's solid enough. He needs the super attack first a little bit. Maybe Cell Max could do something to him, but for the most part, first 2 rotations with this guy, you're pretty solid. Especially after you super attack, and if you double super, you're like really really good. But guard plus 20% damage reduction. It's going to go a long way. Plus, he just has like naturally high defensive stats. He's definitely missing out on some of the support units that we used to have around him. But like you start getting the LR Gammas around this guy, and they can really make this guy look like even crazier than he already is. But yeah, I would say the first 5 turns because of the active skill. Once you get access to the active skill, it basically gives you 1 extra free rotation. So that is important to note as well, which I'm sure he's about to, but the first 3 turns you have your intro up, which, he's going to be solid. After that, you have 1 more turn with the active skill. And then after that, you just need to wrap up the fight. But worst case scenario, you have the Beast Gohan active skill. You have the Blue Gogeta active skill. So that can, potentially bail this guy out if you haven't already finished the fight by that point. So
against Cell Max, and then Piccolo's in Cell 1, Cell Max super attacks right away, like he'll get fodderized. But like Piccolo is very defensive for the first 3 turns. Then, so let's say Piccolo's in turn 1. He's very defensive for turn 1, very defensive on turn 3. You hit turn 5, Beast Gohan active skill. Hit turn 7,
yep.
You use Orange Piccolo, and the fight is won.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's no, like Piccolo, the thing is, Cell Max, Beast Gohan, Blue Gogeta, they can control the fight with their active skill taunt or target mechanic, which is devastatingly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good.
Yep.
But it does not protect from AoE, supers, or normals. Piccolo's giant form cancels all boss abilities.
Yep.
Bunch of bosses heal, Piccolo cancels it.
Oh yeah, and the
AoEs,
heal. Mm-hmm.
AoE super, double super, all boss abilities, all canceled by Orange Piccolo. It's just, you have to respect it. I mean, if he wasn't under the umbrella of Beast Gohan, he wouldn't be as good. But just the way superheroes constructed currently, you run this guy next to Beast Gohan, and you can't lose. That's it. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you use the act. So let's use Gogeta fight as an example. We get to tech Gogeta. We use the Beast Gohan active. We get to Blue Gogeta, who has AoEs. Damaging, deadly AoEs. We pop the Orange Piccolo. Gogeta's dead before he gets a chance to punish. This is the thing. People do need to understand. Don't really worry so much about, Cell Max has that 1 turn he could take damage. Beast Gohan when his intro's gone. People obsess about these things that potentially could happen rather than what.
That's usually how I am until I actually play the game. Like that's definitely directed at someone like me, where I am thinking of like possible scenarios whenever they come out, and I'm like, okay, like this guy, like they're gonna be safe for these turns, but what happens when this happens? And I focus only on that. That's definitely how I am, and that's again where I'm just like, until I use the unit and see how they perform in game, me giving an opinion on anything just doesn't, like, it holds no weight, and I realize that as a reviewer of things.
Does fucking happen, and what happens is Beast and Orange Piccolo, it's just invincible. And it's like, I know Beast is doing the lion's share of the damage, but Piccolo at the start of the fight is not dying. It's very important to be good at the start of the fight. And then he's got one of these abilities just like Beast, a better version. Piccolo's is a better version than what like Cell Max and Gogeta and Beast and these characters have. Although I'm sure, I mean, if you crit with Cell Max, he's definitely doing more damage, I think, than Orange Piccolo. All 3 turns of it are going to do. Same with Gogeta if he crits, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hit my knee on my desk. I could even move Orange Piccolo up 2 slots. The Gammas are really good. Broly is really good. But, like, they don't just say, fight's done, like Orange Piccolo does. They don't. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that other than, yeah. I mean, I guess I already added my 2 cents. Thoughts on Love Island, anybody? Anybody thoughts on Love Island here?
I'm gonna leave it. I'm so tempted to put Orange Piccolo up. Bro, I'm like dying to slide him up. It's just I'm sorry, like, bro, like I'm so curious. You know, here, hold on.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna skip through this part. I actually have already watched this video a little bit. I don't remember exactly word for word what happens, but like right here, Truth is just like reading the comments, seeing if anybody like really disagrees with like what he's saying, and just to see if he could, you know, find a reason not to move them up. I guess this person said something, but yeah, it just doesn't like. He ends up not moving Orange Piccolo, but yeah, that's just kind of what he was. Dude, shut up. That's kind of what he was doing right here. Is he was just trying to find like some counterpoints, like for Orange Piccolo, like somebody like being like, no, he's not actually as good as you say, but like I mean, he is. He decides not to move him up, but again, he kind of does put him in the same tier, so it doesn't matter. Like to me, again, like he's got 6 through 10 in the same tier, so it doesn't matter. Those to me, in my eyes, are all ranked the same. They're all tied. You move them however you want. So
where he is. Let's talk about the Gammas and Broly. Gammas are very good. They're not that crazy turn 1. I've had many instances of them lately dying turn 1. They're just really not that crazy. They do have a very good standby condition though, either HP under 70% or once they do 3 attacks. They're very good. Like they've got a lot of support.
All right, hear me out, right? How do I word this? The Gammas feel more like a Yellow Coin LR than Cell Max does, if that makes sense. You know, if you think about the Ginyu, right? Like the Gammas feel more like Ginyu in terms of the role that they are playing than Cell Max. Like the Gammas have really good animations. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about like how good they are. I just mean like the Gammas feel like they're a unit that you put on a team. And they're meant to be like the 6th or like the 5th option. Like they're just kind of like the support unit you put on the team. They're solid. You float them. You don't really put them into much pressure. Like that's the role they feel like they're meant to fulfill. Whereas Cell Max feels like he's the true Carnival LR and is meant to like take the bombardment and the pressure. Like Carnival LRs feel like they should be on the same level as Dokkan Fest LRs. That's just kind of how they feel. Whereas like Yellow Coin LRs feel like this, you know, like 5th or 6th option that you can slide into a team and help bring it together. So that's what I would say about the Gammas is that they just feel like they're meant to be like a 5th option on a team. Like if that makes sense. Like they're still good. Like they are an amazing unit, but they don't feel like they're meant to be the stars of the superhero team, which is probably why like one of the reasons why they get ranked a little bit lower is just they don't fulfill that role of like the premier unit on the team. They just feel like exactly what they are, which is kind of like a nice solid support unit that's providing a lot of other power to like the main stars on your team. So that's what I would say about the Gammas.
And stuff like that, but compared to a lot of the characters up at the top, I don't really. This ability is really good right here. What LR Gamma 1 does right here. So this gives super class allies 50% defense for 2 turns.
Yeah, that is insane, by the way, and you feel it. I mean, you can see it. Is the other thing too, which is nice. But yeah, this is really good.
This is a monster ability. But this alone, to me, it does, like it pales in comparison to UI and Vegeta's revives, to Gogeta's active skill, right? Like the top characters of this list are dominated by these unique special team protector abilities. This is the closest the Gammas have, which
that's another reason, by the way, I could put Orange Piccolo above like somebody like this. Is Orange Piccolo does have a very special team protector ability, whereas like they just have really good abilities, but nothing that's just like saving you from the boss, if that makes sense.
Is good, but I feel like I'm good with where they are. Easily, you can see them just completely block big boss 3 million supers, right? If you have Gamma 1's full damage reduction up, especially if you might have some of his defensive links up, like Android Assault and stuff like that, like he can, but there can be quite a bit of variance to this character, right? Depending upon numerous factors. I mean, remember, you do have the huge damage of Gamma 2's standby as well. They're good. I feel like this is a good spot for them. Same with Broly. Broly would be significantly better if this was just 5 turns from the start of battle. He would be so...
Oh, yeah, I forgot Broly has this ability. Yeah, I mean, this sucks. This sucks on every unit that it's on. The whole from first appearance. Another thing about Broly is he is not, especially in base, he is not as good defensively as you'll think he is. A lot of the times it doesn't matter now because of Cell Max, but man, whenever this guy was having to hold super bosses on his shoulders, it was rough. One thing that is nice about Broly is I actually think he has a really, really good team. I don't know if Truth is going to show it in the video here, but Broly's team is very, very good, so that is nice.
Much better. Or even, I mean, check this out. Check this out. Check this out. What if it was just turn 4 from the start of battle? How about that, Dokkan? How about that for our anniversary Dokkan Fest LR? Right now, my biggest grievance with Broly is transforming him. I mean, I did, just earlier, I did, kind of like the new format I wanted to try for World Tour, which is I essentially made it one video, right? And it's like, in this, I think we transformed with Broly one time. Once we transform with Broly. That's kind of the biggest.
Until the domain update comes out too, and again, we don't even know what the domain update is going to be. My question is just like, why would I want to transform with Broly? If I can just get Rosé's like faster, sooner, and it's going to, I don't know, buff all my super bosses, like why, like why waste my time when I can just do Rosé now? So that does kind of suck. Hopefully the domain update is good.
Issue. I mean, thinking about that, yeah, I gotta. Like, I know. Okay, so the assumption would be, oh, Broly is even better now that Cell Max is in the game. But is he? I mean, he's on a safer team. But now, I mean, because of how good Cell Max is, I found, like, okay, like, we are able to do Rosé's domain a turn earlier than Broly's, and, like, Cell Max just protecting us at the end. A week ago, it was, we have no chance against these bosses unless we get to the end, Broly is transformed, and then we get lucky and Broly is able to touch a death them. But that's, now that Cell Max exists, that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
I'm actually, you know what? I am gonna make an adjustment
on the fly.
I'm gonna put the gammas up Broly now. That's the adjustment I'm gonna make. Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Yeah.
Again, though, this doesn't matter because they're all in the same tier. Like you swap these all around as much as you want, they're all in the same tier. Doesn't matter. At least that's my thoughts on it. Again, you can just these are all. He ended up putting these all in the same tier, which is why he's having a hard time ranking them. And at the end of the day, they're all in the same tier. It doesn't matter.
I mean, maybe if the fights got a little bit longer, or because the other thing too is that Broly is very good. I mean, I'm definitely running him as a leader of super bosses and stuff like that. But I mean, if he's not transforming, I mean, the gammas are still giving support, huge support, mind you, every step of the way. Broly is not, like, Broly is just an okay character until he transforms. He's just like, okay, like, he's good. He's good. Yeah, I think the gamma's in front of Broly. After Cell Max, I feel like Broly's impact is lessened. At 6, we have Buuhan. Buuhan's. I would put him above Gammas and Broly. I mean, this is more so, to me, this feels much more of a significant slot 1 character throughout the entire fight, which does matter. Again, I understand people's, like, love for damage and stuff like that, which is definitely
another thing with Buuhan's too. He's probably going to mention it. Like, I try my best not to just sound like a parrot here, but like with Kid Boo's Super Easy A now, this guy just feels like way better. Not that he felt bad before, but Super Kid Buu having like some of his same links and being like on a lot of his same teams and having big bad bosses, like it just makes this guy feel a lot better as well. So that like Kid Buu definitely helped this guy out a lot. Kid Boo's I'm really happy with what they've done with Super Easy A's. I think Goku Black's could have been better. His Super Easy A, I just think it could have been designed better, like with more thought in mind. Like it just, I don't know. They should have given him like damage reduction instead of crit, but anyway, he is good enough to like Goku Black does feel at home on the Super Boss's team, and he feels good right now. You can still absolutely get caught with him, but like he feels good enough for what he needed to be. So, he is clearly the weakest Super Easy A though. I think him. Well, it's either him or Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but. Anyway, Buu-Tank's really good.
Gonna lean to them always liking like a character like Broly and maybe like Str Vegito and stuff like that. But I mean, those just the high damage is just not as high a contributor to winning as a character like what Buuhan is bringing to the table. This contributes to winning far more, right, than the highly specialized damage situation some of these other characters. So Buu-Tank / Buuhan is just great. I mean, he's got a huge bag of tricks, attack break. He heals all over. He's guarding. He's dodging. Like this guy just has. He has such a.
This guy, by the way, is going to be good for your battlefield setups like forever. Like I don't know that this guy's ever going to age out of your battlefield setups. This guy is awesome. Absolutely. If you do not have this guy, make sure you summon on the banner with him during the anniversary, and make sure you get him link leveled. Get some investment in him. This guy is awesome.
A deep bag that he could reach into. So many different abilities he's doing. He's fantastic. I'm back on board. Cell Max is the hardest fight in the game. I am. I'm totally back on board with it now. I kind of go back and forth on that. Right now, at the moment,
if I had to do a difficult fight tier list, it'd be really hard. But I don't know who I'd put at 1. Cell Max on turn 1 is definitely the hardest boss. But like he just kind of becomes like a debuff merchant like on turn 4 or something like that. But getting to turn 4 can be a bit of a challenge. I would say, I don't know about the hardest, but I would say the most toxic boss. Whoa, I don't know. That's tough. That's got to be between Trunks and the Beast Gohan fight, the one that like negates damage under 3 million. It's got to be one of those two, but probably Trunks. Trunks is so toxic, man. He will lock your ass in slot 1. Like whatever unit appears in slot 7, he'll just lock them there, and then you're cooked. Like potentially, but depends on the team you're running and RNG but the Trunks fight's also really short though, so I don't know. I don't know who I'd put as the toughest fight. I mean, the Trunks fight is good. That's the nice thing about the 9th anniversary is that there's just a lot of really good fights, and they all feel different. Like it's not like the Worldwide Celebration last year where we got a bunch of fights, but they all felt the same. It's like, no, we have fights where debuffing is good. We have fights where dodge is canceled. We have fights that are long. We have fights that are short. We have debuffing fights. We have fights that cancel damage. We have fights that cancel, STR or not STR, like strike, like melee supers. We have, bosses that are pure Saiyans. We have bosses that are, like Beerus, like we have all kinds of bosses. We have fusion bosses. We have Majin Buu Saga bosses now. It's like we have all kinds of bosses in the game at the moment. The game has never felt on JP more filled with good fights than it has felt like right now. There has never been a time in Dokkan where you could go test out the limits of every character in the game in different scenarios than there is like right now. And that's just like the truth. There has never been. Like in the past, we've had Super Battle Road, but that was all structured basically the same. We had the legendary Goku events and the legendary Vegeta event. Those were structured the same. Like if you're good in one of those, you're going to be good in like the other ones. Like who's the best at stacking? Basically, is all those were good for. We got Red Zone, and there was a little bit of variance to Red Zone, but whenever Red Zone first dropped, it's like you just had to be good, right? Like it wasn't really. emphasizing a particular set of skills. It was just like, are you a good unit, if that makes sense. Now it's like we have all these different fights that can show off the different abilities of different units, and that is really good. It's like, oh, your your Buuhan right here, and you have a 10-turn seal, or is it 5-turn? 5-turn seal. Like, yeah, that actually matters now because you can sell max for 5 turns. Like, there's just things that matter now that have never mattered before with these bosses. So that's probably what he's about to bring up is the 5-turn seal. And yeah, I really like this meta that we're in Dokkan right now because it really does allow you to feel all. It's like, in the past, we'd look at this guy's kit and be like, oh, he has a seal, it doesn't matter. Oh, he has a debuff, it doesn't matter. Oh, he has this, it doesn't matter. Oh, turn this, it doesn't matter. Like, there were so many times where a character would come out and it's like, all right, this guy has 5 lines in his passive, 2 matter. Like, you guys know what I mean? Like, you look at a character like the AGL Trunks, for example, and it's like you transform him, he does all these crazy debuffs, and it's like, okay, well, this is never going to matter. Now we're in a meta where if he was good, stuff like that would matter, which is awesome. I think that's just like masterclass design by Dokkan. So anyway,
I'm on board. Sell max, hardest fight in the game. I know it's a little gimmicky, but I mean, even with the gimmicks, it's still like the hardest shit in the game, dude. It's definitely the fight that gives the most trouble. And I mean, when you consider, this is like a win. Like, you hit that bastard with this, and it's GG. It is GG. Cell max is done basically from that point on. I definitely feel comfortable about Buuhan above the rest. Again, his bag that he reaches into is just way too deep. His tricks, like that,
he really does have a lot. He has guard, he's got dodge, he's got key up, he's got the ceiling. I mean, he really does. This guy does a lot. He's got that attack break too. Yeah, like this guy is awesome. I love that they made this guy as good as they did, and I'm really happy that they made him the better of the 2 EZAs. Str Vegito isn't terrible. Like, Str Vegito himself is actually really good. The issue is that Goku and Vegeta unit. And I feel like I said this whenever they released. I was definitely, again, I look at defensive calcs and I make my, presumption from there. But another thing that always holds me back on units is HP conditions. And, they can't change active skills. And so I was like, all right, they're going to need to make Goku and Vegeta awesome in base. Like, they're going to need to be insane in base. Like, I don't really care what they do with the Vegito form. I need them to be cracked in base. And whenever I started calculating their defense, I was like, people are like, oh, they stack now. Oh, it's like, okay, but, about that HP condition, we always joke that it's like, oh, the bosses don't just whittle you down. They one-shot you to 0. Some teams they can whittle down. Like the Majin Power team, they do kind of whittle you down. The thing is that with the Majin Power team, if they don't straight up one-shot you, you are just going to heal back to 100% HP on the next turn. Whereas, the Vegito unit, trying to play around that HP condition, I've just never found it to be good. The only place where I found it to be consistent is against the, stage 3? Whichever one the Boo Tank stage of the new Red Zone is, that's where I have found the transformation to be consistent because it lowers your HP. You enter the turn and you lose like 15% HP, right? Like that is the only place that I have found their transformation to be consistent, and it's because the boss basically forces you to transform, which is probably what they were designed around, but it's just like, it feels gimmicky. You know what I mean? And they're like, they feel really, really weak in base. Boo Tank still feels like a competent unit in base. There's a lot of times where it's like, well, I should probably transform him, but we could gamble and it could pay off. If I don't transform him on this turn, we could get like one more stack out of him, and that could pay off later in the fight. So like, it feels risky, but like rewarding to not transform Boo Tanks, whereas it only feels risky if you're not able to transform Str Vegito. And by risky, I mean like you're pretty much dead. If you're ever in a situation where it's like, all right, we need Str Vegito here and we don't have him, like you're probably just dead. Like, you should just reset the run. Whereas with Boo Tanks, it's like, all right, we still have a chance to survive. Like we could make it out of here. But anyway,
I would compare Buuhan to something. It would be like, bro, like Cavaliers Kyrie Irving or something, man. Like, that's what Boo Tanks is. I don't know. All right, so next we go ahead and grab Gogeta. Top 5 is pretty. Like, I could just fill in, like, you guys know what the top 5 I think is at this point. Like, I feel like I could almost just fill the top 5 in. As a matter of fact, I will. UI, Evolution Blue Vegeta, Cell Max, Beast. Let's fill it in. These are the top units in the game, I believe. There's you, Beast. Where's Mr. Max? There he is right there. All right, Beast, Cell Max, Vegeta. UI Goku. This, I think, is what the top 10 looks like right here. Reviewing it, yeah. Yeah, I do. I'm really thinking about it. I really like the Gammas above Broly because, like, the Gammas, I mean, they could get caught.
Again, by the way, this does not mean that Broly is bad. This just means the competition is fierce, especially up here in these upper ranks. I mean, like, Evolution Blue Vegeta is like the best EZA we have ever had. Like bar none, he is the best EZA we've ever had, and he's third on the list. Like that's crazy. Beast Gohan again. Like this guy is so good on so many teams. Like it's so free, and you can. Didn't Truth do a video? I think he showed it off in this video, didn't he? Where he just autoed everything in the game with Beast Gohan's team. Like, like come on, dude, that is insane. I mean, of course he's like a part of it, and so is this guy. But there not many teams you can do that in. Like anyway, but yeah, I think this is a solid list. Gogeta with his orb changing and his dodging and just like how solid his kit is, his target mechanic. UI Goku is just awesome. Evolution Blue Vegeta is very, very, very good, and he has a really good revive. Cell Max is so oppressive. His damage is it's actually ludicrous, especially once you get like Rose's domain up around this guy. Like, get back, man. You go show this to like 2018 Dokkan players, and their brain explodes. Like. This is like the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta meme. Like you guys know the one where it's like all of it, you know, F you, whatever. Like that is this guy. that is this guy as a unit.
Much easier than Broly. I feel like turn 1. Yeah, they really can. Damn. Gammas versus Broly is the one. Like if I'm looking at anything, it's just Gammas versus Broly that I'm kind of in between on.
For me, Gammas versus Broly, I would pick Gammas just because they're on Superheroes, and Superheroes is a better team. But Broly's really good. Like Broly, don't let Broly, like, he's going to be good on a lot of teams as well. This guy has a lot of categories. Like, he fits in super great on, like, Vegeta's team, for example. Whereas, like, the Gammas are pretty much, like, super bosses. Like, that's pretty much it. I guess you could run them on special pose. But... like, Broly being a Saiyan, he's going to have access to more teams over time, so he'll probably age better than the Gammas. But it's going to be tough for the Gammas to age out, too. It's going to be tough for the superhero team to age out. A world where the superhero team is getting aged out is a spooky-ass team. Because, like, that means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Like, look at that. That's the superheroes team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That the superheroes team makes up 6 of the top 10, and then you even have a bonus unit down here. Like, dude, a world where like all 7 of these units age out of the top 10 is a spooky ass world, man.
Like I could be swayed either way. I feel like I could hear arguments from Gammas or Broly, and I probably would like it. I do dislike how easy the Gammas can get cooked turn 1. Gamma 1 at the end of the fight can be just so dominant, though. So can Broly. But I feel like the Gamma's support, if Broly's not going to transform, makes me kind of want to edge out the Gammas. I think I'm going to go back to Broly over Gammas. I don't.
Oh, again, by the way, it doesn't matter. They're all in the same tier. Just to remind you.
Guys, I can't really decide Gammas versus Broly, man. I cannot. I guess we'll just go with this. Okay. UI Goku is probably the strongest character in the game turn 1. He has 100% dodge. I mean, there's specific fights where dodge is canceled, like Blue Kaioken Supreme Battle Spectacle, which is one reason I've been doing that fight. But, I mean, this guy, so he could show up. I mean, Cell Max is the best example of this. Turn 2, UI Goku is in, slot 1 with 100% dodge, and his revive can be up. So UI Goku literally cannot be touched no matter what, and then if another character dies in rotation, UI Goku will revive. That's the thing about the top 5 right here. All of the top 5 have team protector abilities.
Another reason why I would move Orange Piccolo to the top of this tier. I like with Gogeta basically is because he does have that team protector ability, but nobody asked me. Well, I clicked on the wrong. Well, it doesn't matter.
I will hear no arguments unless it's Orange Piccolo, I guess. Gogeta, I do feel like UI and Vegeta are safely above Gogeta. I do. Gogeta in base form is not that impressive like Broly. Like it's like he's solid. I mean, the thing is, you transform with Gogeta much more often than you do with Broly. Gogeta is Rainbow Orb changing as well, but Gogeta's taunt, his active skill, people will say, oh, it's better than Beast Gohan's, which it is, because it draws all enemy attacks to him, but he has 100% dodge. One of the big things, this is an issue for both Beast Gohan and for Cell Max, is that the biggest bosses, the nastiest bosses, you will draw the attacks to you. Beast and Cell Max will double-digit tank them, but then Supreme Battle Spectacle Beast Gohan will stun you. Supreme Battle Spectacle Blue Gogeta will seal you.
On a team like Super Bosses, by the way, that can matter. Like, Super Bosses is designed around, like, these characters are only good defensively for so long, and you need to be doing damage to make sure that you're getting out of that fight. That's kind of how I'm looking at Super Bosses, right? It is, you know, so if Cell Max gets blocked and he's not able to do any damage on a turn, that could potentially hurt you. Like, let's say, you know, you're like, all right, we'll wrap it up on this next turn. We'll get Cell Max's active skill. You know, we'll take it out. And if you're not able to take out the boss, you get a bad, like, turn of RNG and you have to, you know, stall the fight out longer. Maybe that second rotation of yours isn't as strong as, like, that one that you were just on with Cell Max. And you're like, oh, crap, now we're exposed. So, like, that can sometimes matter. Like you could get caught, potentially. Like, that loss of damage potentially could be felt. But are you going to feel it all the time? Probably not. Is it that big of a deal? Maybe not, especially on Super Bosses where every unit is doing like 30 million attack stats every turn. So, but anyway.
STR Sword of Hope Trunks will seal you. Int Sword of Hope Trunks will stun you. AGL UI Goku will seal you. Like, so many bosses are doing these abilities. So Beast and Cell Max will block the enemy super, which truly is the most important thing, but then at the same time, they will not be able to do damage to the boss. Whereas Gogeta is 100% dodging it, thus meaning he's dodging the debuff, thus meaning Gogeta's drawing all...
It's not the hardest fight anymore, but there actually is the Broly, what is it, movie memorial fight? Is that the one that it is? Or it ends with Broly, Chi-Lai, and Limo, and they cancel dodge? That fight can be a little bit tricky. I think it, like, I went in there not knowing that it canceled dodge, and I popped this guy's active skill, and then we got obliterated. That was really funny. But you know, it I don't know that fight. I don't know. Does that crack the top 10? Maybe. I don't know. I really, if you asked me right now, gun to my head, to name the top 10 hardest fights in Dokkan, I would get to about 6 before I started slipping, and then I'd be like, and then you just shoot me, and then it'd be over. But
attacks to him, blocking the super, canceling all normals, but Gogeta's also doing massive amounts of damage, which Beast and Cell Max do not do. But the thing is, I feel like I don't see Gogeta's active skill even half as much. Cell Max and Beast, you are torturing and terrorizing the bosses, constantly spamming their taunt active skill mechanics. That doesn't happen with Gogeta. Gogeta is a state, like, one of the reasons this video was so successful right here, Beast Gohan and Superhero Auto every tough fight, that's just what I called it. Gogeta was massive for this, because Auto is just popping Beast Gohan's active as soon as we can. So in some of these fights, at the very end, it was Gogeta's active skill that was the final blow towards us winning. I think against Supreme Battle Spectacle Beast Gohan, I think against Supreme Battle Spectacle Blue Gogeta, and I think against Cell Max, all three of those fights, Gogeta in this auto run was able to get his active. He was able to cook it with that. So understand that. So I like Gogeta up there, right? Vegeta to me clearly feels better than UI. He does. There's just a lot of...
Listen, I'm the biggest, like, whenever this guy showed up in the anime, I was like, all right, I need this guy in Dokkan. The 6th anniversary was, like, one of my favorites, just because of, like, UI Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta, specifically because of Evolution Blue Vegeta. I love this guy. Even on release, I was probably one of the bigger Evolution Blue Vegeta defenders. I mean, there were clear flaws in his kit, but they rectified all of those with the updates here that they did for this guy. So that is good. Truth always talks about being clear cut, him above UI. I don't know if I'd argue with anyone too much if you wanted to say UI over this guy. again, they're in the same tier, which I think is correct. So obviously UI is going to outage this guy. I mean, that's just the way it is. But this guy is really, really, really solid. And he's going to be good for I mean, I want to say for a long time, but who knows? I mean, maybe Worldwide comes around and they start dropping 8 million super attack bosses. So who knows?
Parts of their kit where Vegeta got love, right? Like, in many years, we've seen many of these Goku and Vegeta, like, kind of like opposition units, where they're very similar, but they have slight differences in their kit. And this time around, it feels like Vegeta won in most of the aspects. Vegeta does feel better than UI Goku to me, yeah.
One thing, by the way, in terms of like what makes them, one thing why I would give Vegeta the edge over, and it's this. Goku has a 77% chance of doing an additional super attack. Vegeta does an additional attack that has a 77% chance to be a super attack. So you're more likely to get Vegeta's hidden potential super attack. So that for me, honestly, is the biggest thing. Is that like you're more likely to get Vegeta's hidden potential because of the way that his passive is structured. I don't know why they did this for UI. Like it doesn't make any sense why they did this, other than to just make Vegeta feel better. So
Goku is still the most dominant character in the game turn 1. Bringing both of them is just awesome because you have a revive up nearly like 100% of the time with both of them. It's so good. It's so good. So there's that. Again, Cell Max to me, like people were kind of like dicking around like, oh, Vegeta's #1 or Vegeta can be like, bro, like now that there's a real character in Beast Gohan's realm, we can cut that Vegeta bullshit out of here. No, he's not up there. Vegeta's very good. I don't have much criticism for him. But, I mean, Beast and Cell Max are just different, man. They're on a different playing field. The enemies cannot do anything when Beast and Cell Max are there. They cannot. Like, I described it when I was going through this video right here, Cell Max. I described it as, like, Ultra Gohan in Legends right now is terrorizing because he's got the AoE green card, he's got the counter blue, he has the strike blocking, and then he can counter with his blue. Like, he has all these annoying ass gimmicks. He's got the armor breaking blast card. He's so cheap, unfair, like get out of jail free card. And it's like, you could use him and dominate with him, but then your opponent can use him and be dominating with him. I liken Cell Max and Beast Gohan to you are using Ultra Gohan, but your opponent cannot, right? Supreme Battle Spectacle, Blue Gogeta, and Trunks, and Beast, and Red Zone Kid Buu, and Cell Max, they can't do anything like what Cell Max and Beast do. So you have full control of the fight 100% of the time with both Cell Max and Beast Gohan. Now, Beast Gohan...
You guys ever look at, like, Cell Max mouth and just imagine, like, a hoagie sliding in there?
He does clearly feel better because he's significantly stronger defensively.
All right, I don't know that there's much more that needs to be said. Like, yeah, Beast Gohan is insane. Like yeah. Cell Max is really good. He is in his realm. Again, I underrated this guy on release. But I don't think that there's much more that really needs to be said here. He's probably just going to talk for another like 4 minutes about points that maybe I've already talked about. But if there's anything in this last 3 minutes here that I'm missing, you guys can let me know and I can comment on it below. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this format better than me just going over the tier list, or if you would prefer me just kind of give my tier list spiel. Oh my goodness, I'm not even going to try spiel. Would you rather me just give me that? Or would you guys rather like this full breakdown of like going over the comments, me providing some additional commentary? Let me know your thoughts. What would you rank as the top 10? Would this be your top 10, or would you slide anybody else in there? I know people like to bait and throw like random units in here, so let me know if you guys would do that. Like throw Raditz in at 5, make me laugh. But let me know your thoughts on this list. Let me know if you guys liked the title. I don't know if what I'm gonna make the title yet or the thumbnail, but I have an idea. Let me know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the top 10. Let me know your thoughts on Cell Max. Are you excited for him to come to global? Is there anybody that is not out on global right now that you're just super excited for? I mean, I think it's just Cell Max and Topo. I think that's it, right? I mean, I guess like Catoplessa or whatever. What did they just get for their TUR? They just got Rose. Yeah, so I think it's just Topo, right? That's the only one we're missing. And then Cell Max, because we're getting Ginyu. Yeah, so we should be, you know, we're moving towards a sync one way or another. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know where you think Cell Max is going to release for Global. That's another big question. Where is this guy going to drop? Do you think he's going to be part of the anniversary? Do you think he'll be right after the anniversary? Is he going to be on a catch-up banner? What do you guys think they're going to do with Cell Max? Thank you all again so much for watching. Again, shout out to Truth. I didn't ask him permission if I could do this, but I doubt he cares. I don't know. If you guys go tell him, go tattle on me, be like, Jordan watched your entire video. You didn't even give him permission. You know, go tell him. Let me know what you guys think. Again, goodbye.